Welcome to the Idaho Fishing Report. Whether you are planning just a couple of hours or a full weekend of fishing, this is your one-stop place for all the information you need to plan your trip. It's all right here, from weather forecasts and reservoir levels to the latest stocking reports and expert advice. And now, the host of Idaho Fishing Report, Jeff Cullers.
Wow, we have probably our biggest show to date. I'm so excited, listeners. I'm going to get right into it. Jordan Rodriguez joins us as he does each and every week with his Tightlines 208 Hot Tip of the Week. We've got the Magic Valley Bassmasters on talking fishing etiquette, and the one, the only Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick, joins us. Of course, I've got all the other stuff too. I've got your reservoir information, your boat ramp, fishing and tournaments, and your stocking reports. So sit back and relax. This is the Idaho Fishing Report for September 23rd, 2022.
All right, let's kick it off as we do each and every week over in the Magic Valley. Sunset will be around 7:35 p.m. Weather's looking good. Friday's going to be a little chilly, mid-70s. It's going to ease up into the upper 70s on Saturday. We'll hit the 80-degree mark on Sunday and Monday. Going to be a high of 89 on Tuesday and Wednesday. And going to come back down just a little bit on Thursday. But you're going to see that mid-70s to mid-80s all weekend long. And it's going to be sunny, sunny, sunny. We'll see the clouds start to build later next week. Winds will be pretty calm, 8 to 10 mile an hour all week long. Your reservoir level and boat ramp information for the Magic Valley. Lake Walcott sitting at 76% full with an elevation of 42-43. The boat ramp is open. Little Woods, 22% full with an elevation of 51-80. The Littlewood boat ramp is open. There are no major stocking to report for the Magic Valley, nor are there any fishing tournaments happening this weekend. All right, it is that time of the show again for our Tightlines 208 Hot Tip of the Week. And join us as he does each and every week, the owner and creator of Tightlines 208, Mr. Jordan Rodriguez. Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Extra great tonight. Just got back from a trip to Texas and, of course, did some fishing while I was there. So, feeling pretty good about everything.
We did swap some pictures over the weekend, so yours were a little bit bigger than mine, but that's okay.
Yes, sir. It was a pretty cool experience.
Awesome. Well, what is that Tightlines 208 Hot Tip of the Week, my friend?
Well, yeah, so it's kind of based on this trip to Texas and also a recent experience I had up at Lake Cascade. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about guides and the value of guides and hiring one. And it's really kind of twofold, in my opinion, the reasons why you'd hire a guide. One is, say, for instance, you're many hundreds of miles from home and doing a type of fishing where you don't have your equipment. It would be very difficult to get your boat or your equipment there with you. So therefore you're hiring a guide, not only for the expertise they may have, but just kind of functionally to get you out on the water. Right.
Sure.
And I've been on plenty of trips where I've just kind of done my own thing from the bank or from the beach or whatever. But, sometimes it's just not really possible. So, this trip to Texas, I was able to go out fishing for a species called alligator gar, which are one of the largest and really most unique species of freshwater fish that we have in North America. Second in size only to the white sturgeon in terms of, the max size they can reach. So we went out with a guide named Bubba because, of course, his name was Bubba. Right. And he is actually the same guy or one of the guys who took Jeremy Wade from River Monsters out gar fishing years ago during the course of that show. So he had some good stories about that and lots of other, shows and things that he's done over the years. But so he was able to get us out on the water. Of course, we used a boat. We used gear. Ironically, the gear we used is basically the exact same setup I have for sturgeon fishing. So, had I been able to get my gear down there, maybe we could have gone and got one. But as you know, sturgeon gear doesn't really fit in a carry-on. So,
right.
we were able to go out and we caught a couple of gar and also a big blue catfish. I may save
Oh,
that story for another day. But the larger gar that we caught was 6'7" and 130 pounds, and just an incredible animal. What a battle and what an experience to get hands on that fish. And of course, we took lots of pictures. One of the things Bubba does help out with down there is a tagging program with the Fish and Wildlife Service. So gar, for those who are not familiar with, especially these alligator gar that are so big, they were really kind of discriminated against for many decades. Treated as a trash fish and as a fish that was eating all the more favorable fish like bass and what have you. Um, and so their numbers really took a hit, and they were kind of misunderstood and mistreated, and there was no protections in place. That thankfully has changed, and they now are doing a lot better numbers wise. And so Bubba does some tagging for the fish that he catches, and this fish had not ever been tagged, so it was a brand new catch and just unbelievable specimen. And really stoked that I was able to go down there and do that. I got some pictures on my Instagram and more stuff coming. So if you're interested in what an alligator gar looks like, go and check that out. And I'll be writing about it, of course, as well. So that's kind of the one instance where hiring a guide is really valuable and just allows you to do stuff that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do, right?
right.
The other one is more on a local scale. And so, this could be things like sturgeon fishing, for example. That requires some knowledge and also a pretty large investment in gear. You can't really go catch a sturgeon on your, medium weight spinning rods. So, if it's something that you maybe are curious about and don't know where to get started, or are interested in learning more, hiring a guide could be a great way to kind of introduce you to the sport, see if it's something you like, see if it's something you want to invest in. I've got a friend here locally, Tim Parrish with Hammett Valley Fishing Adventures, who guides for sturgeon. And he's a really good guy and really knowledgeable. And when you use a guide on local waters, then the other benefit is you have that knowledge, and you can apply it going forward, in terms of seasons and methods and techniques and kind of all the little things that somebody who fishes for these fish every day, or close to it, knows that you might not know, even if you're a really experienced angler. And then another recent experience I had, which was in today's paper in the Idaho Statesman, was I went out with Chris Weber, who is a guide up on Lake Cascade. And he's relatively new. He's been doing it for about a year. And we were introduced actually by somebody who knows both of us, who's taken my fishing classes and who has gone out with Chris several times. And Chris was great, man. He was just a really friendly guy, a really fun guy to fish with. And we just went out and fished together. And, I definitely learned some things that day. And we've talked on the show a few times. Cascade can be a really, really technical fishery. Obviously a trophy fishery and a really good one. But, I think most people would agree that it's probably one of the tougher places we have going in terms of finding, consistent success. And that's what Chris makes his living off of, is finding consistent success out there. So it was really fun to go out with him. He's a fellow native Midwesterner. He's from Wisconsin. So of course he has a lot of experience catching perch. But it's really fun to see, even for someone who's out there every day, just the look he gets on his face when one of these, 15-inch blimp perch comes into the boat. It's just like, holy smokes, it really kind of drives home how special that is and how rare of a fishery that is. So, he guides year round. He guides on the ice as well as in the open water, obviously. And highly recommend Chris Weber. You can find him through the Tamarack website, or else my website and the Statesman today have information on how you can get in touch with Chris.
Outstanding. So two really good points. And we talked a few weeks ago about our trip to Lincoln City over in Oregon. and how my wife and I went fishing, bottom fishing out there for rockfish. And again, that's a trip, like you said, where we're not taking the boat, we're not taking our tackle. This is a one-day trip for us, and hiring a guide was, the best choice because we didn't have to worry about any of this stuff. We showed up, the boat was full of fuel and coffee, and we went out, we fished, we came back with our fish and our crab, and it was absolutely perfect for us. We didn't have to do anything. There's that aspect of it that I like. But I really want to touch on what you talked about, hiring a guide locally. And a lot of people, I don't know if their ego would get in the way of, I'm a good angler. I know how to fish. I know how to catch fish. But I kind of liken it to going back to school, right? You go to school, you learn some stuff, you pay for that education, and then from there you can take that education and you can advance. I think hiring a local guide is a great idea because, like you said, Cascade is one of those kind of technical fisheries. You go out, you learn some stuff. Now you put that in your pocket. You've got that experience. It's a one-time investment into making yourself a better angler.
I just don't have any qualms about it. People, you go out with a guide. It's like cheating, and it's not the same. It's not the same sport. And maybe I'm in a little bit different boat because some of these guys invite me out, to go and to do articles that will kind of expand their presence in the in the local mines and everything like that. But at the same time, I mean, a guided trip can be whatever you want it to be, and some people maybe are just looking for like that vacation aspect where they go out, they don't have to do anything. When I go fishing, whether it's on my own or with my friends or with a guide, like I'm doing it all, right?
Yep.
I want to be baiting the hooks and checking the lines and switching out the tackle and, tying the rigs or learning how to tie the rigs if it's something I'm not familiar with. So, and that would definitely be my recommendation. Like, sure, is it nice to have somebody like do everything, especially when, you pay your hard-earned money to go out? Yeah, but you're not really getting the full benefit out of it. So, I'm out there doing it all and just trying to learn as much as I can, soak up as much as I can. Every angler is your teacher. Everyone does things a little bit differently. And so, I would just say there's no shame in it at all. It's, it's a very valuable thing. And obviously if you're on vacation, then it could make a lot of sense. But even here locally, like you said, you go out, you take one of my classes, for example. My classes don't make you the best angler in the world overnight, but they are meant to make you a better angler and to kind of shorten that learning curve that we've talked about. And in many ways, a guide is the same thing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of your classes, this is the last podcast before your fly fishing class. We're going to announce the winner here just a little bit later on the show from this week. Those that didn't win, you'll get an email from us letting you know that there's a discount as Jordan offered last week, but still a couple of spots left in that class. Tell us about it, Jordan.
Yes, we do have a few more spots available. So if you don't win the prize, shoot me an email. We'll get you in there at the discounted rate for our podcast listeners. And we're going to be doing all things fly fishing. The class is called Learning to Fly, and it's being held Wednesday, September 28th. From 5:30 to 8:30. The first hour or so we'll be out doing casting instruction, professional casting instruction. We're going to teach you, get a rod in your hands and teach you, the ins and outs of fly casting. And then the rest will be seminar based, where we'll talk about different flies, locations, strategies, gear, all of the things that we typically cover in a Tight Lines 208 class. And it's really a lot of fun. It's a really popular class. And we hope to see you there.
Outstanding. That's Jordan Rodriguez from Tight Lines 208. You can go to his website, tightlines208.com, or you can find him on our links page at gemstatefishing.com. Jordan, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. All right. Well, big thanks to Jordan there. And exciting news we have. We have an opportunity now. If you want to help support this show, you can do that through Patreon. We have a link on our website. Just go to gemstatefishing.com, click on the Patreon site. Here's some good news though, listeners. If you sign up to be a Patreon, there's a lot of advantages that you get. Like you will get the podcast before anybody else does. But also additionally, we're going to give you a discount to any of Jordan Rodriguez's Tightline 208 classes. Plus, we're going to give away a seat in every class that he has in the coming year, simply because you're a Patreon listener. So if you like to support the show, you can do it for as little as $5 a month. And you can do that to help us continue to grow, and you get some great discounts, and you also get some great advantages. So go to gemstatefishing.com, click on the Patreon page, and become an Idaho Fishing Report patron. All right, let's look at that Treasure Valley. Starting over at Mountain Home, sunset will be around 7:40 p.m. Temperatures look really nice through the weekend. Upper 70s, lower to mid 80s, all the way through Sunday. It's going to be sunny, sunny, sunny. Mild winds, 7 or 8 mile an hour, which if you've been to CJ Strike, you know that's ideal. Start to see that creep up on Monday, lower 90s, and then starts to dip back down into Thursday. We'll see the clouds roll in Wednesday or Thursday. There's a slight chance of rain, 16% chance of rain on Wednesday. Over in Boise, sunset's around 7:42 p.m. Kind of the same thing. Friday, we're going to see upper 70s. Through the weekend, we'll see low to mid 80s. It starts to creep up on Monday into the upper 80s, lower 90s, and then drop back down as we get later in the week. It's going to be very mild. Not much chance of a rain. Everything I see is single digits Friday, and then the beginning of next week, your winds are going to be pretty calm. All right, how about that reservoir level and boat ramp information? Anderson Ranch, 76% full with an elevation of 4173. All boat ramps are open. Arrow Rock is sitting at 28% full with an elevation of 3130. The high ramp and low ramp are still open. Lucky Peak is down to 20% full with an elevation of 2953. We did not lose either one of those ramps though. Turner Gulch and Spring Shore Mains are still open, but none of the other ones. Lake Lowell sitting at 46% full with an elevation of 2520. All ramps are open. Okay, there is a lot of stocking happening, but they're all in small ponds and rivers. Nothing of major quantity. 300 and 400 here and there. Highly recommend just going to the Fishing Game website. We have a link on our website to Fishing Game, and you can see more there. One fishing tournament to talk about, that's the Magic Valley Bass Masters at CJ Strike, and they'll be at the Black Sands Boat Ramp. That's on September 24th.
All right, we have a very special guest with us today. I've asked the Magic Valley Bass Masters to come on and talk about a couple things as they have a tournament coming on. And joining us is Zach Taylor. Zach, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. So I have a question for you. Before I get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Magic Valley Bass Masters?
All right. Yeah, we're a tournament based club in the Twin Falls, Magic Valley area. Tournament or team based, I guess, would be the way I would describe it. You register with a partner as a boater and a non-boater, and then you're able to fish with that person during the tournament. And that's pretty much 5 biggest bass, bring them in, weigh them in, and we typically pay out top 3 places based solely on your weight of your 5 biggest fish. We always pay big fish as well. So
very good. About how many tournaments do you guys do a year?
We do one a month from March through September.
Okay. So this will be your last one there you got coming up then this weekend at CJ Strike, then I take it.
This is the last one. Yep.
If folks are interested, how would they find out more information about your club?
The easiest thing would probably be to reach out to our Facebook page and just message us. The president and the vice president and myself are all on there, and we're happy to talk to anybody about joining a tournament. If you tell us during the week that you're going to fish with us, we will usually let you join our club at the ramp.
Okay.
Just because we usually have off limits the week before the tournament. That's kind of a rarity for the clubs here in the Magic Valley. A lot of them don't have any off limits. We kind of think differently and have off limits during the week. So
maybe can you explain that to some folks that never club fished before or tournament fished before? What do you mean by off limits?
Yeah. So It's written in our bylaws that whatever lake we're going to fish goes off limits Sunday night at 12:01, or I guess it would technically be Monday morning, right? 12:01 Monday morning, and you're not allowed on the body of water from that time until Saturday morning at launch. What it's doing is just making sure nobody gets an unfair advantage. 95% of the people that fish in our club are, they're working individuals, a lot of blue collar guys that work a 9 to 5 job, or shoot, I work a 7 to 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock job. I try to get all my stuff done during the week so I can have fun on the weekends. And it kind of just gives everybody kind of not an even playing field, but an evener playing field, right?
Absolutely. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, by the time this one airs, it's probably going to be too late for anyone to get out this weekend, but definitely reach out to this club if you're interested. All right. So the reason that I asked you guys to come on tonight, last week I was at CJ Strike and had some friends who didn't do fishing, saw a tournament going on, and I said, well, we're not going to go over there. We're going to give them some space. And they were like, well, why? It's a public lake. I'm like, it is, but these anglers out here, they're trying to win a tournament. And so I appreciate you come on and kind of what is that etiquette? If you see somebody out tournament fishing, it is public water, right? You can go wherever you want to go, but from a tournament standpoint, kind of what's that etiquette when you see someone out tournament fishing?
And that's a really interesting question, and I'm really glad that you asked it, because I think a lot of guys that fish tournaments, they get frustrated with, we call them the public. If you read through any tournament's rules, they'll have a section about how to interact with the public, and you're supposed to treat the public. You're supposed to give them essentially the right of way, and be courteous and polite to them. And if there's any reports of that not happening, you can be disqualified. It's never happened in the 20 years that I've been tournament fishing, but it could happen, I guess. Doing it for so long, you run into a lot of different situations. CJ Strike is a hard one because the last 2 to 3 years with the pandemic and stuff, a lot of more people have been on the water, and I would say that's probably where you're going to run into the most pressure, air quotes, pressure fishing out there. Other than ski boats, you're at CJ Strike, you're going to run into a lot of people fishing. And there's no real written rule of etiquette. I'd be really interested to see other anglers' opinions, especially tournament guys. But I always try to give everybody space and try to just be nice and treat people how I would like to be treated, right? So, if I'm fishing somewhere, I don't expect somebody to come right on top of me and start fishing too. With ski boats, you always have the people. Sometimes those ski boats will come right between you and the bank. Same with a fishing boat. They'll just drop down their trolling motor right on top of you. I think for a lot of recreational anglers that don't do tournaments, I think that they just assume that the guys with the sparkly boats and the big motors actually know what they're doing, and 90% of the time they're probably better fishermen than we are. So, I would never make that assumption.
It's kind of like the restaurant with the most cars. That's probably the best place to eat.
It's not always true.
It's not, but I drool a little bit too when I see the red sparkly bass boats. I have to admit.
That's right, and it goes both ways too, because I think some tournament guys, they kind of feel entitled to the water. They kind of say, well, I'm out here all the time and I fish. This is my spot, and this is where I catch fish, and I think that's kind of detrimental to how the public sees tournament fishing as well. We're all out there to have a good time. We're out there to have fun. Not many of the local tournaments you're going to run into are going to have that much money on the line that somebody's trying to feed their family tournament fishing, because honestly, it's a terrible way to try to make a living. If you're out doing the Elite Series or big MLF tournaments, you got $100,000 on the line. Here, the tournament this weekend, if you win, you're probably going to get $400 at the very most. And that covers the gas and the camping spot for the weekend. So it's being done for fun, right?
Absolutely.
So
And pride, right? There's pride on the line to
of
walk away
course.
with the trophy.
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah.
So I've some of the tournaments I've seen, and I guess I'll ask you guys about yours. And one of the ways that I was able to know that these guys were tournament fishing was they had an identifier on their engine. So they had the wrap around it that said tournament. Do you guys do the same thing?
Yeah, it says contest on it, and then it usually has a number. Certain bodies of water in the state require that banner. They call it a banner.
Gotcha.
And you'll notice that one side is the one you saw was probably fluorescent green, and then
It was.
And then underneath that on the reverse side is orange. The main reason for that, in my opinion, is if somebody in the tournament has a problem, they're supposed to flip that banner around and put the orange out, and then if they have an issue, guys know to stop and help them. Also, I mean, if you wanted to report somebody, you could say, hey, boat number 2 or 20 or whatever he was doing something weird, or he was where he wasn't supposed to be, or he was being an a-hole, and report them that way. So.
Well, that's good information, and I think you're right. I think you kind of hit on it, right? It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're tournament fishing or you're not tournament fishing. I think we need to respect everybody. And most of the bodies of water that people fish on here in Idaho, especially southern Idaho, the Treasure Valley to Magic Valley, there's plenty of space, right? There's plenty of shelves. There's plenty of schools of fish. And you just kind of respect other people and treat them like you want to be treated. I know one of the big things for me is we like to troll, and it drives me crazy when somebody drives right across the back of the boat. And you should be able to look. I got lines out. We're trolling. Can you give us 100 feet? Right? If you can give us 100 feet, you'll clear our lines. But I think it's pretty good etiquette, and I really found it interesting that you talked first of all about the etiquette from the tournament guys. And mine was more, trying to educate the as you call it, the public or everyday anglers. I think we just have to respect each other when we're out on the water.
Yeah, and I think it, like you said, it all comes back to that golden rule, right? That we're taught from when we're knee high, is treat others how you want to be treated. And for me, we deal. I was the club president for quite a while, and I've kind of stepped down recently because I'm adding to the family, and it's just a little bit too much work. But that was one of the things that you always deal with. You don't deal with very many issues, but it's even guys within the tournament. Well, he came too close to me, and he moved in and caught my fish, and it's like little kids sometimes. But I think what I always would tell people is, my number one rule every time I did a blast off was don't be an a-hole, because really that's what it comes down to. And if you want to know what that is, you're probably the problem, right? So
right.
You know what that means. You know if you're being rude to somebody, and if you're being a jerk. So don't do it. And so we don't have problems when everybody treats people nicely. So.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we wish you the best of luck. The early forecast looks great. High of 81, sunny on Saturday, only 9-mile-an-hour winds, which everybody knows at CJ Strike, that's a win. We were out last weekend, and we got caught in a 20-mile-an-hour wind gust, and we have a pontoon, so it was a little hairy there for a little bit, but wish you all the best of luck. Zach Taylor from the Magic Valley Bassmasters joins us on the Southern Idaho Fishing Report, talking about etiquette, whether you're in a tournament or you're just fishing on the lake next to someone else. Zach, thanks for joining us, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Same to you.
Hey, guess what, listeners? We have a new website. That's right, it's gemstatefishing.com. Go there to check out all the links, because you can get all the information we provide here. You can also contact us through the site. Time to head up the Double Nickel to the Cascade area. Sunset there will be around 7:41 p.m. Upper 60s on Friday, lower to mid 70s on Saturday and Sunday, upper 80s through Wednesday, and then we'll see it dip down just a little bit into the mid 70s on Thursday. There's a slight chance of rain every day, nothing over single digits though. It looks to be sunny all the way through Tuesday, and the clouds roll in on Wednesday and Thursday. Very calm winds, 6 to 7 mile an hour, nothing crazy up that way. Okay, what about your reservoir level and boat ramp information? Cascade sitting at 59% full with an elevation of 4816. We did lose another boat ramp this week, so the only ones that are currently open are Sugarloaf, Campbell Creek, Poison Creek, and Carbotten. Deadwood sitting at 46% full with an elevation of 5302. The Cozy Cove boat ramp is open. Man Creek is down to 10%. Elevation of 2837. South ramp is closed. North ramp is still open. Kind of the same thing for stocking in the Cascade area. A lot of small ponds and rivers. So again, just check out Fishing Game for more info. There are no fishing tournaments to report for the Cascade area.
And then there was one, a former Progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year, a 6-time Bassmaster winner, a former Bass Nation National Champion, an 11-time Classic qualifier from Rathdrum, Idaho, the prodigy, Brandon Polinick. Brandon Polinick.
All right, we have a very special guest. I'm so excited. We've been trying to connect, and he's a very busy man. He just finished fishing in a tournament, and I saw this week on social media he's out doing hunting, so he goes right from one sport right into the next. But joining us is the Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick. Brandon, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You nailed it. We went straight from fishing season to hunting season, and then juggling that with in between everything else,
Right?
business stuff, family time, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you are an Idaho native. That's correct.
That is correct. Yeah, born and raised. Well, technically, I was born in Pullman, Washington, but we lived in Moscow, so I don't know how that happened. But
well, I've been up in that area, and they're not too far apart from each other. So yeah, that's interesting. All right, so I want to talk fishing, but I do want to get a little bit back into your history and about just how competitive you are. We have a mutual friend, and he actually is on the show each week, Jordan Rodriguez, and he was telling me a little story about your wrestling days.
yeah,
Back in high school, and he told me a story about how you won the championship with a broken arm. Can you talk about that?
yeah. No, not many people know that story, but that is true. It was my senior year, and I was wrestling in the state finals. And that year, it was actually down there in Boise, and I think it was leading either like 13-2 or 14-2, something like that. And the kid I was wrestling, it was right at the end of the third period. There were just a few seconds left. So his only hope to win was to try to throw me to my back and pin me.
Gotcha.
And he did a double overhook, tried to throw me. I planted on the mat. His hip came down on my forearm, and I broke it. Clean break in 4 places, so twice on my radius, twice on my ulna, and yeah, my elbow was touching and my wrist was touching, and that was it. And I mean, it was pretty lucky because it ended up being right when the towel came in, and so I was able to stand up, take the victory, hand was raised, and then they took me to the hospital. And just like a little funny side note on that, the whole time, like I was laying on the ground, I was saying, man, like I was screaming, I was like, that's my flipping arm, that's my flipping arm. And everyone thought I was saying like, like cussing, like that's my arm. But in reality, the only people that understood what I was saying was me, my coaches, and my mother. saying that's my flipping arm because I had qualified for the Bass Nation Western Regionals on Lake Lowell down there in Boise, and I knew that tournament was going to be like a shallow water flipping and pitching event, and so I was saying that's my flipping arm, like my casting arm. Gotcha. So that was just like a funny little side note to show how much I still thought about fishing in moments like that.
All right, so you grew up in that area up there. I'm assuming you spent a lot of times on those northern lakes and probably on one of my favorite lakes, Dorshak Reservoir. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've fished nearly every major reservoir in Idaho at this point, I would say, and definitely spent the majority of my time, between Coeur d'Alene and Pend Oreille and some of the smaller bodies of water that we have up this way. But I mean, Dorshak's incredible. There's some really good, I love fishing CJ Strike. Just the state as a whole has a bunch of unique fisheries that are kind of unlike anything else.
All right, so I grew up in North Carolina, and that we did bass fishing there, and that's one of the things when I moved here is how diverse this state is. Just this past weekend, we were at CJ Strike. We caught a bass, we caught rainbow trout, we caught perch, we caught crappie, and we caught it all. And that's one of the things that I really love about Idaho, and you're spot on with that. I'm wondering if you would take just a few minutes and talk about what got you into professional fishing. What made you want to jump into that and become a professional fisherman?
Well, I was always obsessed with fishing as a little kid. I think as young as I can remember, and even before that, because I hear stories from my mom and stuff talking about dragging me into mountain lakes when I was 2 years old, backpacking in and camping, and all I would want to do is just fish. So like anytime we were around water, all I wanted to do was fish. And we had a family friend when I was 8 years old that fished, kind of regional tournaments, and my mom got it set up where he would take me out when I was 8 years old, and he took me out in his Skeeter, and I fell in love with it. And like when I learned that there was a way that you could be competitive and fish, I decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
I got it. That's cool. All right. So you've been in the series how long now?
So, well, the way I like to explain it, I haven't had to work a normal job in 12 years. I love it. I started 2011. So we've just finished up my 12th season.
And how did this season turn out for you this year, Brandon?
Well, I ended up winning the points race. I didn't win any of our individual tournaments. I've won 5 elites total over my career, and then ended up winning the points race, which got close to winning a few times. Had a second, had a third, but never actually pulled off a individual win this year.
Okay. Well, I'm a NASCAR fan, so I understand that points race is kind of the same thing, right? But that's awesome for the average listener, and you said it yourself too. You haven't worked a day in your life, but that's a hard life. You do a lot of traveling, and you're going all over the country. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we generally are on the road 9 months out of the year. So unfortunately, I spend less time in Idaho than I do in Idaho. I'm on the road more than I'm actually home. And that's just part of it. It comes with a lot of sacrifice. It's actually more work than if I worked just a regular job. Because when you work at 9 to 5 or something, usually you can leave your work at work. You don't have to bring it home with you. But this job is nonstop. And there's the fishing side of it, but then there's the business side and the media side of it. And it's a nonstop, constant work, but I wouldn't trade it for the world either.
Yeah, I was kind of stalking some of your social media stuff and your website, and I see you do stay very active. It's not just the fishing. There's a lot else that you do. Um, how can anglers find out more about you? What is your website, social media? You want to share that with everybody?
Yeah, the easiest thing is just my actual website, and that's bmpfishing.com. Get questions all the time what that stands for. That's just my initials. So super simple, bmpfishing.com. And then there's links to YouTube videos that we filmed every Elite Series video or every Elite Series tournament since 2017.
Wow.
So there's, over 50 plus tournament videos on there, lots of other content. And then, all my social media handles are just Brandon Polinick. But if you can't spell my last name because it's kind of tricky, my website's the easiest place to go find the links for it.
Outstanding. And you know what? We'll put a link on our page for that. So if you want to, you can just go to the gemstatefishing.com and we'll have a link to his page on there as well. All right. One final question, and we do appreciate you getting on. And like I said, I know you're busy and you're home and you're trying to spend some time with family. I'm going to hit you with a hard question here. Not in Idaho, but what is your favorite lake to fish outside of the state of Idaho?
It would probably have to be Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario, like the eastern basin of Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River confluence it's just incredible. Like I love the scenery up there. The amount of 4 to 5 pound smallmouth is unheard of. Before it didn't get a lot of pressure. It's getting a lot more pressure now, but it's still an incredible fishery. And I feel like it's so big that there's still so much untapped water out there. And that's the kind of stuff I love, right? Where you feel like you're making a cast somewhere where maybe nobody else has ever made a cast before.
Wow. Yeah, I think you just posted something about that on your social media the other day about St. Lawrence. So I should have known the answer to that question. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you coming on. Know you're busy, and we appreciate your time and the information. We wish you all the best of luck. Get some rest and recovery. Get ready for next year. And we really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we can hop on here again.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon Polinick, Bassmaster Angler of the Year, joins us as a special guest on the Idaho Fishing Report. Hey, do you want to be part of the show? Email us with questions or your fishing report from your last trip. You can email us at gemstatefishing208@gmail.com. Want to send me pictures of your fish? Send it to myfish@gemstatefishing.com. And if you have questions about the show or want something answered, email us at questions@gemstatefishing.com. One more trip out to the Snake River Reservoir area. Sunset will be around 7:44 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. All right, Friday, upper 70s. We'll see up 80s to mid 80s through the weekend. Monday, these temperatures start to creep up towards the 90-degree range with upper 80s, lower 90s. And then it comes back down and going to be sunny all weekend when the clouds are moving in. That's right, you guessed it. Pretty much the story for everywhere. Those clouds will move in on Wednesday and Thursday. Some single-digit chances of rain through most of the weekend, but winds will be calm 5 to 7 miles an hour. Brownlee still sitting at 2043, so no change from last week. All ramps are still open except for spring recreation and Steck Park. And yes, that health advisory is still in effect for Brownlee Reservoir, so be cautious there. No stocking or fishing to report for the Brownlee area. You can find us on Facebook groups, or you can follow us on Twitter at Idaho_report. Let's get into that moon phase report. The new moon will be September the 25th, first quarter October 2nd. Apogee is September 19th, and the perigee will be October the 4th. So I think we'll have a decent weekend as far as the moon phase is concerned, as we work towards the new moon with all the peaks will be in the good range. None in the excellent, but there are also none in the fair. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty solid weekend. Now, your peak times over the weekend will be 1 to 2 a.m. and again around the same time in the afternoon, so 1 to 2 p.m. You're going to see another good peak around sunset, 7 to 8 p.m.
And again, that's through the weekend. Now, first of the week, those peaks are going to get stronger the first of next week. Those peaks will be 3 to 4 p.m. You'll also see that same peak 3 to 4 a.m. if you're an early riser. You'll see a little bit softer peaks at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. as we get later in the week. It is time for my grade. And you know what? We got a good one. I'm going to give the weekend a B+. The weather and with some 3 really good fishing peak times during the day. I think the weekend's going to be great. If you have a chance to get out the first of next week, I think you're going to get yourself a solid A as far as fishing is concerned. That's going to really drop down Wednesday and Thursday with the weather coming in and the kind of peaks getting a little softer. But B over the weekend, A first of next week. So get out there and get those lines in the water. Well, I don't know if you had a chance to get out last weekend to go fishing. We did. We had some friends came up from Reno and spent the weekend with us. We were out CJ Strike. I will say the early report for the weekend looked great. It turned kind of nasty over the weekend. We got some really strong winds. We were out in the 2-dog boat in our little pontoon boat. And man, we got caught out there and we were white capping. And if you've ever been out there and you know what it's like on CJ, the fishing was slow. I think the moon phase report last week was pretty accurate. Remember, I said I was going to put it to the test. It was pretty accurate. It was slow. We would troll over schools of fish and lures that we knew just every time worked were slow. We did pull in 4 nice slabs from 12 to 16 inch crappie out of there. We caught 1 bass but we ate that for dinner Saturday night but it was slow fishing. But we had a good time all in all. Other than the wind that came through, it was a good weekend.
What an amazing show we had this week. Of course, Jordan Rodriguez comes on and talks about fishing guides on his Tight Lines 208 Hot Tip of the Week. Zach Taylor joined us from the Magic Valley Bassmasters, and the one and only Bassmaster of the Year, Brandon Polinick, joins us from his home in northern Idaho. What a big show. Man, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to tease you. It won't be next week, but in 2 weeks, we will have another professional angler who lives right here in Idaho join us on the show. So you don't want to miss that. As we're starting to wind down our season here, I think we'll conclude with that special guest, but it's been a great show. Thank you so much, listener. Tell your friends about it. Tell them to come listen to the interview with Brandon Polinick, with Zach Thomas, and of course, you can always get Jordan Rodriguez's Hot Tip of the Week from Tight Lines 208. Thank you so much, angler. I'm Jeff Cullers, and I'll see you on the water.
We would like to thank you for listening to the Idaho Fishing Report and would like to remind you to visit our website, gemstatefishing.com, or you can find us on Facebook or YouTube. I'd like to thank our sponsors, our guests, and experts, as well as you, our listener, for making this show possible. This has been an Old Man Studios production. Join us next week for another episode of the Southern Idaho Fishing Report.